Hello everybody, welcome back to another cruise with Big Smooth. If you like any of the videos that you've seen so far, give them a like. If you got any questions that you want my opinion on, or any topics that you want me to discuss, feel free to comment. Love to hear from you guys. If you like what you're doing, hit the subscribe button or notification bell, know when new stuff goes up. I try to post every day that I've got a decent work commute. So the other day I listened to the State of the Union address, and also I found out yesterday that President Trump was acquitted. Now, due to the Republican and Democrat majorities held in the respective houses, I was always of the opinion that this was going to be exactly what was going to happen. That he would get impeached in the House and acquitted in the Senate. And in my opinion, it didn't matter what the charges were, how firm or flimsy they were, or how many witnesses were called. That was just my opinion since impeachment was announced. So, I was right. But listening to some of the news on the acquittal and some of the things that came out from the State of the Union address and news, I came up with a rather interesting thought exercise. And I want to know your thoughts on this. Comment, please. Let me know what you think. Okay. We're going to rewind history quite a bit here. Almost 250 years, if I can do math when I'm tired. The year is 1776. The United States declares independence from Britain, and instead of George Washington becoming president, while George Washington does go and fight the necessary battles and wins the victories of the Revolutionary War and the founding of the United States, all that stays the same historically. He does not become president or king like the people of the colonies wanted him to. Instead, he says, do I have your permission to appoint someone president? Yes. And this president will be president for all of time. Sure. President glass of water. Now, the theory behind this is that every time an election is held, your state and local representatives and even federal representatives to the federal government from your state, they all changed historically just like normal. But President glass of water stayed the same. He had no personal history, no background before president. Literally, George Washington went over, poured a glass of water, set it down. The President of the United States is this. The only thing that changes is that in this current timeline, as presidents would get elected and do things and change legislation or what have you, President Glass of Water would do the exact same thing. And President Glass of Water would also have the same kind of scandals that other presidents had. So, as an example, President Glass of Water would have declared war on the Confederate Confederate States because he was anti-slavery and he had abolished slavery in the North and the South seceded. So, okay, President Glass of Water declares civil war. President Glass of Water gave the December 7th, 1941, a day that shall live in infamy speech. President Glass of Water got in trouble at Watergate, but then also President Glass of Water was the new president when he came in, when Nixon stepped down. President Glass of Water did have an affair with one of his interns in the White House and committed perjury in front of a federal grand jury. So anything that any president has done is done by President Glass of Water. So here's the question. Since there's no backstory, give you a great example. President Trump was one of the first, or the second Hollywood president, and he was famous for just telling people you're fired. So, how much would the opinion of President Trump change if there was no backstory and no personal history of his going into the 2016 election? So everything that has happened, so history on President Trump starts at the election or the inauguration. How much would that have changed the public or media perception of him? How much would it have changed the public or media perception of Obama, George W. Bush, or Clinton? Those are the four presidents that I've lived through. So those are the four that I feel the most comfortable talking about, just since I'm familiar with them. And even Clinton, not so much. But would President Glass of Water have not caught flack over the Fast and Furious weapons scandal, smuggling weapons into Mexico, that Obama didn't catch much static from the media? Would he have caught flack for firing Comey? Would he have caught flack for get the idea? So it's not something that I have all the answers on, or that I'm going to presume that, well, media coverage is so biased, which sure it is, but you can find media coverage that plays to whatever your political bias is. That's just a fact. So you've got Fox, if you're conservative Republican. You've got CNN, C-SPAN, MSNBC. If you're Democrat, so sure, you can find whatever bias you're looking for in the media, including alternative media such as the Blaze TV, which I've watched a few of their shows, and the commentary, in my opinion, is just as good and just as informed, but the slant on it is different. So that's just a thought exercise that I wanted to go through. You know, what would President Glass of Water have gotten away with? What wouldn't he have? Would he not have gotten away with anything, or would he have gotten away with more things compared to the presidents that he's substituting in for in this little thought experiment? So just a thought experiment that I wanted everybody to have an opportunity to think through for themselves. If it was just the policies of each president, what would you think about that president without, you know, a smooth-talking guy from Arkansas, or the son of a former president from Texas, or... What in the world? You've got to be kidding me. How the heck? They closed my road, folks. And there were no signs leading up to this. Fantastic. And I'm literally a mile from the interchange, but I don't think there's any other way around it. I'm going to have to double back. Oh, great. Backing up a freaking on-ramp. Sorry about that, folks. Gonna be a little later getting up to work than I wanted to be, but oh well. Another thing that I wanted to talk about in this podcast, Dad told me about this. He was alive during the majority of the Cold War with Russia. He was born in 56. So he was definitely alive through the height of it. I've researched some of it. I don't know all there is to know about it. I know that there was more than one occasion that the United States got really close to all-out war, nuclear war with Russia. So, not going to rehash all that, but I am going to tell you a story. And I'm sure if you looked, you could Google this and find it. I haven't, but I remember the story that Dad told me. During the Cold War, since Russians and Americans were constantly trying to prove that communism or capitalism was the better way overall to run a society, they were constantly having games of one-upsmanship. That's part of what that's part of what contributed to the start of the space program. So, Russians put a satellite in orbit, Sputnik, before the United States. They put a man in orbit before we did, Yuri Gagarin. So, there were several games of one-upsmanship played over the years between the Russians and the Americans. Well, I don't remember exactly how this got started, but I remember the gist of the story. At one point, the Russians or the Americans challenged the other country to a race. A production model car was to be selected and race prepped, so no interior to speak of, roll cage, fuel cells, fire extinguisher, that sort of thing. So it was a production car, but made where it was safe to go to a racetrack kind of thing. cars on this racetrack. If I remember right, it was a Ford Crown Victoria LTD, a big square-bodied land yacht that, considering all the things of the time, was good enough. And I think the Russian put up a Yugo or some sort of a state sedan. I don't know what it was, but they did race a vehicle, and both of these cars were fresh off the assembly line, and they had their interiors cut out, a roll cage welded in place, a racing fuel cell put in, and a fire extinguisher, and the drivers were turned loose on a pre-agreed upon racetrack. Anyone that follows automobiles will know the likely outcome of this race. Ford Crown Victoria just destroyed this Russian car by laps. It had gone around the track more times within the given time period, or finished the race several laps ahead. I don't know how they did the race. So the headline should have been Ford first, or United States car first, Russian car second, right? Technically. So the headlines in the United States read that Ford won this race between the American capitalists and communist Russia. Russian headlines read something to the effect of, Russian car finishes second in multinational race. Americans finish second to last. There are no lies in that headline, but there is a huge degree of spin. I'm not going to break down all the sentence for you, but I'm pretty sure that you can figure out that they were highly misleading in the choice of their words. Come on, just go. So, one thing that I think everybody should keep in mind when they're listening to the news is the art of the spin in that story, because it painted such a very different picture from reality. Anyway, I've been going for quite a bit now. I guess that's all that I've got to yap about today, so hope everybody has a good day. Stay safe out there. Again, like, comment, subscribe, notification bell, share if you want to. Or if you don't, don't. This is just a way for me to keep my mind busy while I'm driving. But I wouldn't mind some subscribers. I really wouldn't mind some comments, folks. So, anyway, I reckon that's all I got for today. Hope everyone has a great day. Stay safe out there, and I'll talk to you later.